Hey there, what's up? Welcome back to Mahogany Sweets. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. I wanted to come and talk to you guys. This is kind of like a story time about death. One of the experiences I had with holding a person in my arms as they die. So let me get into it. I was at my parents' house, sitting on the couch watching TV, and heard like a gunshot and some screaming. So I went to the door, and a person who I know was laying out in the street, right? And it was some other people who, as I was rushing down there, were some other people who were rushing down there who were standing around, and he had a gunshot wound to the head. I'm not sure if he had more than one gunshot wound. I just know that it was one to the head because it was nighttime. It was dark. So he was laid kind of like between like the middle of the street and the curb. It was is where he was laid at, and it was like people standing around. This was in a neighborhood, so I knew everyone who was there. He knew everyone who was there. Um, we were just concerned, like, wow, this is crazy. Here he is laying out in the street. So they were kind of standing around or whatever. So I rushed to him. I did not want him to feel alone or by himself. I knew him. I had known him for years since I was younger. Um, so I went and I kind of like got down like on my knees and I put my arm like under his right shoulder, going like around his back to come this way. Well, anyway, he was like, he was like, like trying to breathe. He had one of his hands on his chest. His left hand was just laying down, and his right hand he had up here like around his chest, and he was just like looking at me, and it was like a look of like, yo, like what the heck. So, cause like he was making face expression, he was not speaking though, and he was just like trying to breathe and everything, and he was holding his chest. So I'm talking to them like, here, did y'all call the police? Call the police? Call the ambulance? We need help and stuff like that. And I just held him and I was talking to him. I was telling him things like, you're not alone. I'm right here with you. You're gonna be okay. I was saying things like that to him, and I also was praying for him and to him or whatever. So we just sitting there waiting, and like time is going by. Time is just going and going and going, and no one was showing up, and I was mad, and he was just continuing to try and hold on for life or whatever. So finally, the cops showed up. Maybe about like 45 minutes later, y'all. This is how long it took, and I'm not sure if when it had happened, someone called police, ambulance, or when I asked if someone then called police or ambulance. In that time span, I had mentioned a few times, like, hey, if y'all called police, call an ambulance, because no one's showing up. And some people like, yeah, like we did. We called the police, we called ambulance. So I'm thinking that like the police showed up like 45 minutes later, and then an ambulance showed up maybe like 15 minutes after that. And by then it was too late, and I was pissed off because I personally believe and think that when they got the call that a young man, a young black man in the city, was suffering from a gunshot wound, that they took their time purposely because of that. Because of preconceived notions that, oh, maybe it was gang violence, maybe it's dealing with the underworld, drugs and stuff like that. So I think that the cops kind of look at it when these type of crimes take place in urban communities, like they do not care, like, okay, well, that's just one less bad person on the street. Like, I think they automatically assume and take on these assumptions and do not try and work to preserve or protect life. And then I also heard that whenever it's something dealing with gun violence, the police normally do take longer, or ambulance take longer, because they try and give it time for everything to settle. Like, okay, if a criminal around, person shooting, we don't want to be there. They don't actually come to try and really prevent crime or stop crime in action. They try to come after the fact, to find out and see if there's anyone who they can apprehend. So part of it could have been that they also decided to take so long because they didn't know if this was they knew a person had been shot, but they didn't know if this was a situation of shootings just gonna keep repeating and taking place or something. I don't know, like a shootout type of thing. And ambulance probably showed up later just in case, right, for the same reason for the police. But I personally think that that wasn't just a case. I think that it was more so they didn't intend or want his life to be saved. Because if they had came in a decent amount of time, which I know that they can, because when my son, who passed away at 2 months old, literally on his 2-month-old day of sudden infant death, when we called the ambulance, they were there literally, and like they were a greater distance away from even where this situation took place, and they were there in literally like 4 or 5 minutes. Like they showed up quick as heck. So, and we made it back to the hospital quick as heck. So I know for a fact that if the ambulance wanted to get there in a timely manner, they could have. I also think, though, that the police may not have notified the ambulance to a later time and probably told the ambulance to wait till we get on scene and we'll notify you when we're on scene or something like that. But I do believe that they just discarded his life and that he could have been saved if they had came in proper amount of time. But anyway, so as I'm laying there holding him, right, and it's time just going and going and going. From being crazy watching TV, right? We see things on TV and we somewhat believe that it's true, that that's how things really go. So from watching shows where they always talk about gunshot victims or accident victims having injuries in certain places, if you move them, they can be paralyzed and stuff like that. So the way that I was holding him, number one, I was not actually supporting his neck, and I did not want to turn him in any type of way because I feared that I could end up having him paralyzed. But one of the things that had happened, like I said, when he was looking at me, he was looking at me like this. He was holding his chest, and you could hear sounds of him breathing, but later those sounds of him, like gasping for air, turned to like a gargle sound. And in the moment, I was not able to put my hands on what I was actually seeing. It wasn't until some years later, a person was having a conversation. They was telling me like, yeah, how did you feel about this situation I'm telling you about? And like in experiencing that and seeing that, and they was just speaking in discussion to a lot of things that I've been through and seen in life, and they had just brought up like that specific issue or situation and was like, how did you feel about that? How did you think about that and stuff? So that's actually what had triggered my memory back to it. And that's when I sat down thinking about it, and I'm like, oh my God. They say 2020 hindsight vision, something like that. I don't remember the exact term, but when in the moment, what I later realized, going back revisiting thinking about it, is when he was holding his chest, that was due to his lungs. I do not believe that he had a shot. So in here, I just remember the blood gushing from his head and what looked like to be brains or skin or something on the ground near it. But his eyes bugging and looking at me was him, one in shock, of course, wanting help, needing aid, possibly being fearful. But it had dawned on me that gargling sound that I heard that I could not quite put my hands on was him suffocating. He was choking. And I was so scared to turn him, and it never actually registered to me in the moment that that's what was happening. But I knew in the moment I did not want to turn him. But looking back at it, I wish I had, because he probably would have been able to hold on even longer than what he did, because he held on for a long time. That's why I was saying, like, if the police or ambulance had came in a decent amount of time, his life most likely could have been saved. But he was looking at me like that because he needed help. He needed aid. He was holding his chest because dealing with his lungs. He could not breathe. I was hearing a gargling sound in his throat because blood was filling up in there. He could not swallow it. And I believe that if I had been smarter, to know what I know now, and literally just lifted him up and turn his head over so he can get that blood and stuff from out of his throat, then he would have been able to breathe and could have possibly held on even longer, to where once the ambulance got there, he could have received the treatment that he needed, and possibly could even be alive, you know. So oh, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come and speak, excuse me, speak what you think about this, is because actually what made me decide to share this video, this experience that I had with you guys, and actually it's going to be another I'm going to share with you guys, was due to the Tamar Braxton situation. People were, I would think I was watching either Lovely T's channel or Impressive channel, one of those, and they were breaking the story, and we heard the YouTuber played the 911 call, and people were criticizing and critiquing his 911 call, and they were like pinpointing how they felt about certain things he was asking, his energy, things that he was saying. So it had made me think, like, no, you never know how a person will respond to these type of situations. People behave differently. They cope with it in various different ways, like, so you can't really judge how concerned someone is, how much someone loves someone, or anything like that based off their response to these type of situations, because you never know what will happen. But that was one of my experiences with death, where I literally held him in my arms and had to watch him die. I am glad that I was able to be there for him in that moment. I was kind of upset at the other people for a bit. Like, in the moment, I was upset with them when I came. Like, look, y'all sitting here in shock and talking, but just call ambulance, call police, so we can get him some help. And they were kind of standing off. So I understand that, though. They were scared. They were shocked. They were confused. They did not know what to do. They aren't medics. They aren't, like, so you never know how someone will respond. I'm not sure why I responded even the way that I did. I don't know why. I just was thinking, like, he's laying here hurt. I do not want him to be alone or feel alone. I know this person. I care about this person. I'm going to hold them and pray with them, speak with them, and hope for the best. I just wish that it had clicked in my mind in the time that what I was hearing was actually gargling, and he probably was looking like this and holding his chest like that because he could not breathe and needed me to roll him over. But I was not equipped or smart enough at that time to know that that was what he needed in that moment. But anyway, thank you for checking out this video. If you are subscribed, please, thank you. And if you are subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. I have more content that I will bring into you. I actually have 2 other videos I am going to make concerning this very topic right here. My other experience with literally holding a deceased person as well. And I'm also going to make the video of how this actually has impacted my life and the effects that it's had on me, and how I responded in these situations and what I think was the cause of it. Thank you. Be ready for those.